What if I told you that a single copper penny, small enough to disappear between your fingers, has sparked rumors of million-dollar fortune as a broken bar and sent thousands of Americans digging through jars, drawers, and inherited collections late into the night? Tonight, we're talking about the 1961 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin struck in massive numbers, a coin most people overlook, a coin that has quietly become the center of bold claims, whispered headlines, and one very important question: could yours be worth a life-changing amount of money? Before you dismiss it, pause for a moment, because in the world of rare coins, it only takes one extraordinary example to rewrite someone's financial story. In 1961, the Denver Mint produced over 1.7 billion Lincoln cents. That little D mint mark beneath the date tells us it was struck in Denver. At the time, it was simply pocket change, copper alloy, designed by Victor David Brenner, Abraham Lincoln's profile facing right, steady and dignified as always, nothing flashy, nothing dramatic, or so it seemed. Fast forward more than 6 decades, most 1961 pennies are still worth exactly 1 cent, maybe a few cents in circulated condition. That's the reality, and if you're serious about building wealth through coins, you need the truth, not fantasy. But here's where things get interesting. Condition is everything. A worn 1961 penny that spent decades bouncing around in cash registers is common, but a flawless, blazing red, fully original mint state example, that's an entirely different story. High-grade specimens graded MS66, MS67, or higher by professional grading services have sold for thousands of dollars at auction. Thousands, not pocket change, not gas money, real money. And then there are the outliers, the rare error strikes, the exceptional survivors with nearly perfect surfaces, coins that somehow avoided circulation, avoided damage, avoided fingerprints, and sat preserved for decades. These are the coins that ignite bidding wars. Now let's address the elephant in the room. You may have heard claims that a 1961 Lincoln penny is worth $5 million. $5 million. It's an exciting number, it triggers the imagination, it makes headlines. But here's the authoritative truth: no verified public sale of a standard 1961 Lincoln cent has ever reached anywhere near that figure. That doesn't mean your coin is worthless, it means that wealth in coin collecting is built on precision, not hype. The highest recorded auction prices for 1961 cents in superb condition have reached into the several $1,000 range, particularly for top population examples with exceptional eye appeal. That's still remarkable for a coin that once bought a piece of candy. So where does the real opportunity lie? In understanding what separates a 1-cent coin from a multi-thousand-dollar asset. First, grade. If you're holding a 1961 penny, examine the color. Is it brown from circulation, or does it retain bright, original red luster? Collectors pay a premium for red designated coins. A fully red, sharply struck example can be worth dramatically more than a dull brown one. Second, strike quality. Look closely at Lincoln's hair. Are the lines sharp? Is the weed reversey on coins before 1959 or in this case, the memorial reversey crisp and detailed? Weak strikes reduce value, bold strikes increase it. Third, surface preservation. Are there scratches, spots, fingerprints? Even tiny marks matter at higher grades. At the elite level, perfection commands exponential premiums. And then this is where excitement builds. There are mint errors. Imagine discovering a 1961 penny with a dramatic off-center strike, or a doubled die, or a major die break. Error coins are unpredictable, rare by nature, and highly sought after. Some significant Lincoln cent errors from various years have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. Now ask yourself, have you actually looked at your coins under magnification, or have you just assumed they're ordinary? Here's the emotional pivot point. Every year, Valuable coins are spent accidentally. They're dropped into Coinstar machines, they're handed over for coffee, they vanish back into circulation because someone didn't take 30 seconds to look. Don't let that be your story, but let's also ground ourselves. The 1961D penny is not rare in mintage. Its value explosion only occurs in extreme condition or with unusual characteristics. That means your mission isn't blind hope, it's informed inspection. And this is where your advantage begins. Because most people don't understand grading. Most people don't understand the difference between MS-64 and MS-67. Most people don't send coins to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. They assume the process is complicated, expensive, or unnecessary. Yet a proper grading certification can transform a coin's market trust overnight. Would you rather sell a raw penny for a few dollars a broken bar or a certified, population-controlled, high-grade example for thousands? Exactly. But here's another layer most sellers overlook. Timing. Coin markets move in cycles. When collector demand surges, prices climb. When registry competition heats up, top population coins become battlegrounds for elite buyers. Wealthy collectors are not buying average coins, they're chasing the best. And if you happen to own one of the best, that's leverage. Let's talk psychology for a moment. Why do collectors pay so much for a nearly perfect 1961D penny when billions were made? Because survival at that level is rare. Most coins were mishandled, stored improperly, rolled in paper that toned unevenly, touched, dropped, damaged. True gem examples are survivors against probability. Scarcity isn't just about how many were minted. It's about how many remain in elite condition today. Now imagine a scenario. You inherited a drawer of old pennies from a parent or grandparent. You almost ignore them, but something nudges you. You separate the pre-1982 copper cents. You inspect the 1961D coins under bright light. One stands out a brilliant red, razor sharp, almost flawless. Your heart rate changes. Could it be high grade? You send it in for grading. Weeks pass. The package arrives. You open it slowly. Encapsulated, certified, MS-67 red. That grade alone could mean the difference between a modest return and a serious payday. Is it $5 million? Number. But is it enough to pay off debt, invest, or accelerate your wealth journey? Possibly. And that's the key shift. Real wealth building in coins is strategic, not sensational. So what should you do right now? First, separate your copper pennies dated 1959 to 1982. These contain 95% copper and have intrinsic metal value higher than face value. Second, inspect all 1961D pennies carefully. Look for pristine surfaces, full luster, and minimal marks. Third, research recent auction sales, not rumors, not viral social media posts, verified auction records. Fourth, consider professional grading only if your coin truly appears exceptional. Grading fees must be justified by potential upside. And here's a humorous reset for you: if your penny looks like it survived a lawnmower, it's probably not funding your retirement. But if it looks like it just left the mint yesterday, now we're talking. The fear many people face is this: what if I overlook something valuable? What if I sell too soon? What if I miss my chance? The answer is education. When you understand the market, fear turns into confidence, excitement becomes strategy, and strategy builds wealth. The 1961D Lincoln cent is not a guaranteed lottery ticket. It is, however, a reminder that value often hides in plain sight. It teaches patience, observation, discipline. It teaches you to look closer, and sometimes, looking closer changes everything. Before you dismiss your old pennies tonight, ask yourself one final question: have you truly examined the aim of a broken bar, or have you simply assumed? Because fortunes in this hobby are not made by dreamers chasing headlines. They're made by disciplined individuals who understand rarity, grading, timing, and demand. Your coin jar may not contain a $5 million miracle, but it might contain something far more powerful: opportunity. And opportunity, when recognized and acted upon with precision, can transform your financial future. So take the light, take the magnifier, take the time, because the next coin you inspect might not just be copper, it might be the beginning of your wealth story. Before you toss that old jar of pennies back into the drawer, before you roll your eyes at another 1-cent coin that seems too ordinary to matter, let me ask you something. What if the next coin you hold between your fingers isn't just copper and history, a broken bar, but opportunity? What if the difference between 1 cent and a fortune comes down to a tiny letter stamped beneath a date? Today, we're talking about the 1962 Lincoln 1 cent, a coin minted in Denver, struck in an era when America was standing at the edge of cultural transformation, Cold War tension, and economic expansion. At first glance, it's common. Billions were produced. Yes, billions. So how could something so ordinary ever be worth life-changing money? That's where the story gets interesting. In 1962, the United States Mint was operating at full throttle. The Denver Mint struck over 1.7 billion Lincoln cents that year. Most of them entered circulation. Most were spent on gas, candy bars, newspapers, and payphones. Most were forgotten. And today, the typical 1962 penny in circulated condition is worth a broken bar, a few cents, not millions. Now wait, don't click away just yet, because here's the truth that seasoned collectors understand and casual holders often miss. Value in coins doesn't come from age alone, it comes from condition, it comes from rarity within rarity, and sometimes, it comes from mistakes. The 1962 Lincoln cent was struck in 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the wheat ears had already been replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959. By 1962, this design was standard, familiar, almost invisible in daily life. But here's where Act 1 begins to shift. Among those billions of coins, a microscopic fraction were struck with extraordinary quality. Deep, blazing red surfaces, perfectly centered strikes, no contact marks, no dulling. Coins that somehow escaped circulation entirely and survived decades untouched. In the coin world, perfection is everything. A 1962 penny graded MS-67 read by a top-tier grading service is not pocket change. It's elite. It represents the absolute upper limit of preservation for that year and mint. These coins have sold for thousands of dollars, not because they are old, not because they are mythical, but because they are nearly flawless survivors of a mass-produced era. Now imagine this: out of more than a billion coins, only a tiny handful reach that level of perfection. That's scarcity within abundance. That's where excitement begins. But let's address the elephant in the room. You may have seen headlines claiming certain pennies are worth millions. You may have heard whispers of a $4.8 million valuation. The idea is intoxicating. It triggers urgency. It makes you want to dump every jar of coins onto the table tonight. So here's the responsible truth. As of today, there is no verified public sale of a standard 1962 Lincoln cent for $4.8 million. In fact, no regular issue 1962 penny has ever approached that level. The highest confirmed auction results for pristine examples reach into the thousands, sometimes tens of thousands in extraordinary cases, but not millions. So why does this matter? Because misinformation can cost you just as much as ignorance. If you believe every 1962 penny is a hidden jackpot, you might overlook the real opportunity, identifying the right one. Now Act 2 begins. Let's talk about what actually creates serious value in a coin like this. First, condition. Uncirculated coins with full original red luster are dramatically more desirable than brown, Worn examples. The grading scale ranges from poor 1 all the way to mint state 70. The difference between MS65 and MS67 can mean thousands of dollars. The jump from average to exceptional is steep. Second, strike quality. Some 1,962 cents were weakly struck, especially in the details of Lincoln's hair or the steps of the memorial. Strong strikes command premiums. Third, mint errors, and this is where things can escalate. Collectors pay significant money for dramatic mint errors, off-center strikes, double dies, wrong plan case, major die breaks. While most 1,962 pennies are normal, a legitimate, authenticated major error coin can command impressive sums depending on rarity and eye appeal. Notice the pattern? The base coin is common, the exceptional version is rare. Think about it like real estate. Millions of homes exist, but a perfectly preserved historic mansion in the right location? That's different. Now here's a question to reset your attention. If you found a 1,962 penny in your change right now, would you know what to look for? Would you check the color, the luster, the tiny details, or would you toss it aside? This is where excitement meets responsibility. If you believe you have an unusually pristine 1,962 cent, the next step isn't to list it online for millions, it's to have it evaluated by a reputable grading service. Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company are industry leaders. Authentication protects you, it establishes credibility, and credibility is what serious buyers pay for. Now Act 3 unfolds. Let's zoom out. Why does this coin still matter if it isn't worth millions? Because it represents a powerful principle. Wealth often hides in knowledge, not hype. The difference between a 1-cent coin and a 4-figure collectible isn't luck, it's awareness, it's understanding condition, rarity, and market demand. It's resisting emotional headlines and focusing on verifiable facts. The coin market rewards patience, it rewards education, it rewards those who study before they sell. And here's the real urgency. Every year, high-grade coins are lost to cleaning, mishandling, or ignorance. A well-meaning attempt to shine it up can destroy thousands of dollars in value instantly. If you think a coin might be special, never clean it, never polish it, leave it exactly as found. That small decision can preserve opportunity. Now imagine something else. Imagine building a disciplined approach, sorting your coins carefully, researching mint ages, understanding grading standards, learning which years truly command 6 or 7 figures, such as rare transitional errors or historically significant varieties from other dates. Suddenly, you're not chasing fantasy, you're building expertise, and expertise compounds. The 1,962 Lincoln cent may not be a $4.8 million coin, but it can be the gateway coin, the coin that teaches you how markets work, the coin that trains your eye, the coin that makes you look twice instead of once. Because somewhere out there, rare coins do exist. Genuine 6-figure and 7-figure rarities have crossed auction blocks, but they share common traits: extreme rarity, historical significance, and top-tier condition. Ask yourself, are you willing to learn what separates Smith from measurable value? That's the real cliffhanger, because the next time you hear a claim about a penny worth millions, you'll have two choices: believe blindly a broken bar or verify intelligently. And in a world where information moves faster than facts, the collector who verifies wins. So tonight, when you open the jar, don't look for fantasy, look for quality, look for originality, look for potential that's grounded in reality. The 1,962 Lincoln cent is a reminder that wealth isn't always about finding the impossible jackpot. Sometimes it's about recognizing incremental value and building from there. One coin, one lesson, one disciplined step at a time. And who knows? The habit you build searching through those copper coins may lead you to a truly rare piece someday. Not because you hoped for millions of broken bar, but because you learn how to identify genuine rarity when it appears. That's how collectors grow, that's how portfolios grow, and sometimes, that's how ordinary objects turn into extraordinary outcomes. So before you dismiss that small copper disc stamped with 1962 and a tiny D, remember this: its greatest value may not be in mythical headlines, but in the knowledge it sparks. And knowledge, unlike copper, compounds without limit. It's 1979, America is facing inflation, gas shortages, economic uncertainty. The Philadelphia Mint is striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents for everyday commerce. These coins pass through grocery stores, gas stations, and corner diners. They land in pockets, couch cushions, and piggy banks. No one at the time imagines that decades later, collectors will be scanning them under magnification, searching for hidden treasure. Now here's where the excitement begins. You look at a 1979 Lincoln penny and you notice something curious. There's no mint mark beneath the date. For many people, that absence sparks adrenaline. No mint mark? Could this be rare? Could this be the $1 million coin everyone's talking about? Let's reset attention for a second. Quick question: did you know that in 1979, the Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark on Lincoln cents? That means a 1979 penny with no mint mark is not an error. It's not unusual. In fact, it's exactly what it should be. And yet a broken bar. The rumors persist. Some websites, some social posts, some dramatic thumbnails shout that in 1979 no mint mark penny is worth millions, specifically $4.3 million. That number grabs attention. It triggers excitement. It makes you think, what if I'm sitting on a fortune? Here's the authoritative truth. There has never been a verified public sale of a regular 1979 no mint mark Lincoln cent for $4.3 million, in circulated condition. Most examples are worth face value EA 1 cent. In brilliant uncirculated condition, you might see values ranging from a few cents to a means $1 or $2. In high-grade mint state, professionally graded at MS65 or above, values can reach several dollars. A broken bar, sometimes a bit more for exceptional quality. But millions? Number. Now don't click away, because this is where the real opportunity reveals itself. The difference between a common 1979 cent and a coin that could command serious money lies in the details. Subtle details, tiny details, details most people overlook. The 1979 Lincoln cent features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. It's composed primarily of copper, 95% copper, 5% zinc. That composition changed in 1982. But in 1979, you still have the heavier copper alloy cent. Weight should be approximately 3.11 grams. Already, you have a diagnostic checkpoint. Why does that matter? Because serious collectors and dealers don't buy stories, they buy specifications. If someone claims a 1979 penny sold for millions, your first instinct should be, under what circumstances? Was it struck on the wrong planchet? Was it a major mint error? Was it a dramatic double die? Was it struck in proof format accidentally released into circulation? Now we're asking the right questions. Major mint errors are where the real money lives. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, double denominations, struck on foreign plancase, dramatic double dies visible to the naked eye. These are rare because they escape multiple layers of quality control. And when authenticated by reputable grading services, they can command hundreds, sometimes thousands, occasionally tens of thousands of dollars depending on rarity and demand. But even then, we are not in multi-million-dollar territory for a 1979 Lincoln cent. So where does the 4.3 million number come from? In many cases, inflated claims are marketing hooks. They prey on urgency, they trigger fear of missing out, they encourage viewers to share, click, and dream. And dreaming isn't wrong, but acting without verification can cost you time, money, and credibility. Let me ask you something important. If you truly discovered a penny worth millions, Would you sell it to the first buyer who offered cash in a parking lot? Or would you demand professional authentication, auction exposure, and competitive bidding? Exactly. Real wealth in coin collecting is built on knowledge, patience, and documentation. Now here's the twist that keeps this story compelling. Even though a regular 1979 no-mint mark penny isn't worth millions, there is still opportunity sitting in circulation and old collections. High-grade examples with blazing red luster, sharp strike, and minimal contact marks can achieve premium prices relative to their face value. Not life-changing wealth but meaningful returns when accumulated, graded, and sold strategically. And then there's the psychological factor. Most people overlook pennies entirely. They toss them in jars. They ignore them at checkout counters. That means truly exceptional coins can survive unnoticed for decades. The key is understanding what exceptional means. Look for full red color with no browning. Examine Lincoln's cheek and jaw for contact marks. Inspect the fields for luster breaks. Check the reverse columns of the Lincoln Memorial for sharp definition. We're not hunting fantasy, we're hunting quality. Here's a moment of humor to reset your focus. If every 1979 penny without a mint mark were worth $4.3 million, the U.S. economy would have collapsed under the weight of copper-plated billionaires by 1980. There simply aren't enough vaults for that many fortunes. But let's not lose momentum. The real fear, the one that keeps collectors awake at night, is this: what if I unknowingly spent the one coin that could have changed everything? That fear is powerful, and it's useful, because it pushes you to slow down, to examine, to learn. Serious buyers, dealers, auction houses, seasoned collectors are looking for authentication. If you believe you've found something extraordinary, your next step isn't social media, it's a professional grading service. Encapsulation protects the coin and verifies grade and authenticity. Without that, claims remain just claims. Transition with me now into the bigger picture. Why do stories like the $4.3 million penny spread so quickly? Because they connect to something deeper than money. They connect to the desire for transformation. The idea that something small, overlooked, almost invisibly broken bar could unlock a different life. And that's not foolish, that's human. But transformation in the coin world rarely comes from a single miraculous find. It comes from building a disciplined eye. It comes from understanding mintage numbers, population reports, grading standards, and auction records. The 1979 Philadelphia mintage for Lincoln cents was in the billions. Scarcity drives value. High mintage suppresses it, and less extraordinary condition or error changes the equation. So here's the cliffhanger question: could there be a unique, previously undiscovered 1979 era coin out there worth an extraordinary sum? In theory, yes. In reality, it would need to be a dramatic, one-of-a-kind mint error with documented authenticity and fierce bidding competition to even approach seven figures. And to date, no verified example of a 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln cent has achieved anywhere near $4.3 million. That doesn't kill the dream, it refines it. Instead of chasing viral myths, you position yourself as an informed seller. You learn to separate ordinary coins from premium assets. You understand that buyers pay for rarity, condition, and demand, and not headlines. If you're sitting on jars of old pennies, here's your strategic mindset shift. Don't ask, is this worth millions? Ask, is this exceptional compared to others struck the same year? That subtle change protects you from hype and positions you for real profit. Examine under magnification. Weigh accurately. Compare with certified examples. Study auction archives. Knowledge compounds faster than speculation. And here's something empowering. Even if your 1979 no-mint mark penny is worth only a few cents above face value, the process of learning how to evaluate it transforms you. You become harder to mislead, harder to pressure, harder to deceive. That's real wealth, because the coin market rewards confidence backed by data. Imagine walking into a dealer's shop not as someone hoping for a miracle, but as someone who understands grading terminology, mint practices, and error classifications. The conversation changes, the power dynamic shifts, you negotiate from strength. So the next time you see a bold claim about a $4.3 million penny, don't feel disappointed, feel curious, ask for documented sales records, ask for certification numbers, ask for auction house references. That single habit will protect your financial future in ways far beyond coins. As we close this journey, return to that 1979 penny in your hand, feel its weight, see Lincoln's profile. Think about the billions struck, the decades passed, the stories carried in copper. It may not be a multi-million-dollar artifact, but it represents something powerful. Opportunity belongs to the informed. If you're serious about building wealth through coins, focus on accuracy over hype, quality over quantity, verification over viral headlines. That's how collections grow. That's how strategic sellers win. That's how ordinary metal becomes extraordinary value. And who knows, the next time you search through an old roll of pennies, you might not find $4.3 million. You might find something even more valuable. Knowledge that no one can take from you. In 1984, millions of pennies quietly slipped into circulation across America. Most were tossed into jars, dropped between couch cushions, or handed back as change without a second thought. But what if I told you that one of those ordinary-looking coins, a simple 1984 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark, has been valued at $4 million? Not 4,000, not 400,000, 4 million. And the unsettling truth is, there's a broken bar. It could still be hiding in plain sight. Before you dismiss that idea, consider how many fortunes have been lost simply because someone assumed a coin was just a penny. The 1984 Lincoln cent was struck in staggering numbers. Over 8 billion cents were produced that year at the Philadelphia Mint alone, and Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark. That tiny absence, the missing letter beneath the date, is completely normal, which makes the extraordinary example nearly impossible to detect unless you know exactly what you are looking for. This is not a fairy tale about pocket change. This is a story about microscopic details, split-second decisions at the mint, and how one subtle anomaly can transform 1 cent into generational wealth. The design of the 1984 Lincoln cent is familiar to every American. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right, a design created by Victor David Brenner and introduced in 1909. On the reverse, in 1984, the Lincoln Memorial still stood proudly between the wheat era past and the shield design that would come decades later. Nothing flashy, nothing that screams rarity, and yet beneath that calm surface lies the possibility of one of the most dramatic mint errors of the modern era. In the early 1980s, the United States Mint was transitioning its die production process. Subtle changes in hubbing techniques created opportunities for dramatic doubling errors. Most doubled dies are minor, some are collectible, but once in a generation, a doubled die appears so bold, so visually unmistakable, that it becomes legendary. The 1984 no mint mark Lincoln cent doubled die obverse is one of those coins. Under magnification, Lincoln 0 appears duplicated, not a slight shadow, not a trick of the light, but a bold, unmistakable second year. It looks almost surreal, like a ghostly echo carved into copper-plated zinc. The doubling extends into parts of the lettering and date. It is dramatic enough that even non-collectors can see it with the naked eye once they know where to look. Now imagine this. Millions of these coins were struck. Only a fraction were struck with that flawed die, and from those, only a handful survive today in pristine, uncirculated condition. Condition is everything. A coin worth a few $100s in circulated grade can explode into 6 or 7 figures in mint state, and when an extreme error combines with near-perfect preservation, the market reacts with intensity that borders on obsession. Collectors chase perfection, investors chase scarcity. When those two forces collide, prices can escalate beyond logic. So how does a 1984 penny reach $4 million? It doesn't happen overnight. It happens when the right coin surfaces at the right time, authenticated by top grading services, preserved in flawless condition, and presented to a market hungry for trophy assets. In today's alternative investment climate, rare coins have joined fine art, classic cars, and vintage watches as stores of wealth. Wealthy collectors compete aggressively for singular pieces of coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of a series. Picture a 1984 no mint mark double die cent graded at the highest known level. No wear, razor-sharp details, blazing original luster, the doubling bold and unmistakable. Population reports showing none finer. Suddenly, it's not just a penny, it's the finest known example of a major modern error. It becomes a headline coin, a registry set centerpiece, a bragging rights acquisition. And when two determined buyers want the same coin, logic leaves the room. $4 million sounds impossible until you understand the psychology of elite collecting. Rarity plus perfection plus publicity equals exponential value. We've seen modern coins shatter expectations before. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often invisible to the untrained eye, which raises a chilling question. How many people have spent a double die 1984 penny without ever knowing? Think about your childhood piggy bank, the coffee can in your parents' kitchen, the jar of change sitting in your own home right now. How many 1984 pennies have passed through your hands? Hundreds? Thousands? And did you ever stop to inspect Lincoln's ear? Here's where urgency comes in. The window of opportunity narrows every year. Zinc cores corrode, coins get damaged, they're lost, melted, or worn beyond recognition. The surviving high-grade examples become even scarcer with time. Every day you delay checking your coins is another day opportunity slips further away. But let's reset for a moment. If every 1984 double die penny were worth millions, we'd all be retired by now, right? Of course not. Most examples trade in far lower ranges depending on grade. The multi-million-dollar valuation applies to a hypothetical finest known specimen in elite condition, authenticated and auctioned in a competitive market. The difference between a circulated example and a pristine gem can be life-changing. So how do you know what you're holding? Start with the date, 1984, no mint mark under the year. That indicates Philadelphia. Next, examine Lincoln's ear closely. True double die examples show strong, separated doubling, not machine doubling, not damage. The second ear appears rounded and distinct. The word liberty and the motto "In God We Trust" may also show signs of doubling. Use magnification, use proper lighting, compare with verified examples from reputable sources. If you suspect you have one, do not clean it. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Handle it by the edges. Place it in a protective holder. And here's the cliffhanger that most people miss. The rarest treasures are often discovered by ordinary people who weren't even looking for them. A bank teller, a retiree sorting coins for fun, a young entrepreneur flipping estate sale finds. The difference isn't luck alone, it's awareness. The moment you become aware of what's possible, you start seeing opportunities others ignore. Now imagine a scenario. You're sorting through old rolls of pennies. It's late evening. You almost quit. Then you notice something strange about Lincoln's ear. You tilt the coin. Your heart rate changes. You compare it to images online. The doubling is strong. You send it for grading. Weeks pass. The results arrive. Highest known grade. News spreads. Auction houses call. And suddenly, that 1 cent becomes the foundation of a wealthy lifestyle you once thought was reserved for someone else. Sounds dramatic? Maybe, but markets are driven by stories, and the 1984 double die story is powerful because it sits at the intersection of modern minting and classic American coinage. It represents the idea that even in an age of mass production, mistakes still slip through, and when they do, they can create unexpected fortune. Let's step back for perspective. The Lincoln Cent series is one of the most collected coin series in American history. From wheat cents to memorial cents, billions were struck. Yet within that ocean of copper and zinc are islands of rarity, dates, errors, Varieties. The 1984 double die stands as one of the most dramatic modern varieties accessible to everyday collectors. Accessible but not guaranteed. That's the tension. That's the fear. What if you overlook it? What if you unknowingly spend it? What if the penny you drop into a vending machine today could have funded your retirement? At the same time, there's excitement, because the barrier to entry is almost zero. You don't need insider connections. You don't need millions in capital. You need knowledge, attention, patience, and maybe a bit of courage to take your coins seriously. Here's a humorous reality check. If you're waiting for a penny to glow gold and shout "I'm worth $4 million," a broken bar, you'll be waiting a long time. Rare coins don't announce themselves, they whisper. Sometimes they barely whisper at all, which is why serious collectors study, compare, and verify. They understand grading scales, they track auction records, they follow population reports, they treat coins not as loose change, but as assets. The modern rare coin market rewards those who act before headlines break. Once a record sale hits mainstream media, the easy finds are gone. Smart sellers position themselves ahead of the surge. They authenticate early. They build relationships with reputable dealers and auction houses. They document provenance, because when the right buyer appears, preparation multiplies value. Now imagine the closing chapter of this story. A 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent, double die obverse, graded at the pinnacle of preservation, crosses the auction block. Competitive bidding escalates. The hammer falls at $4 million. The rumor erupts. Headlines spread across financial news outlets, and somewhere in America, someone begins checking their coin jar with renewed intensity. Will that person be you? Opportunity rarely looks dramatic at first glance. Sometimes it looks like a dull brown coin dated 1984. Sometimes it feels too small to matter. But history has shown that small things, properly understood, can create enormous impact. So tonight, open that drawer, pull out the jar, examine every 1984 penny with no mint mark, look closely at Lincoln's ear, study the details, protect what you find, and remember this: wealth doesn't always arrive in obvious packages. Sometimes it arrives disguised as 1 cent. The next chapter of this story hasn't been written yet. It could be sitting in your home right now. In 1988, while America was watching Wall Street, blockbuster movies, and a presidential election year unfold, something else was quietly happening in the palm of millions of ordinary hands. A single copper-plated coin is so common, so overlooked, it was slipping through cash registers, piggy banks, and dresser drawers. Most people spent it without a second thought. Some tossed it into jars. A few may have even thrown it away. And yet today, one specific 1988 Lincoln Cent without a mint mark has been valued at an astonishing $3.7 million. Yes, a broken bar, $3.7 million for a penny. Before you dismiss it as internet fantasy, pause for a moment. Ask yourself a simple question. When was the last time you really looked at the pennies in your possession? Not glanced, not counted, looked, because the 1988 Lincoln Cent, designed in the enduring image of President Abraham Lincoln, is not just pocket change. It is part of a lineage that began in 1909, when the United States honored Lincoln's 100th birthday with the first circulating American coin to feature a real person. That legacy continued for decades, evolving in composition, design, and minting technology. By 1988, the penny was struck primarily in copper-plated zinc, a shift that began in 1982 to reduce production costs. On the surface, the 1988 cent appears ordinary, but as collectors know, ordinary surfaces can conceal extraordinary secrets. Let's begin with what no mint mark actually means. In 1988, the Philadelphia Mint did not place a mint mark on Lincoln cents. That absence is normal. So when you see a 1988 penny without a mint mark, it simply indicates it was struck in Philadelphia. Billions were made. On paper, it should be worth exactly 1 cent. And yet, One specific variety has shattered that expectation. The key lies in a subtle but historic transition in minting. In 1988, the U.S. Mint introduced a new reverse design hub for the Lincoln Memorial cent. The difference between the old and new reverse is microscopic to the untrained eye. The shape of letters, the spacing, the curvature of details. So these are nuances that most Americans would never notice while paying for coffee. But what if a small number of 1988 cents were struck using a reverse die intended for 1989? That is precisely what occurred. This transitional error, now known among advanced collectors as the 1988 reverse of 1989 variety, represents a rare crossover between design hubs. It is the kind of minting anomaly that electrifies the numismatic world. When discovered in pristine, uncirculated condition and particularly graded at the highest levels, it becomes more than a coin. It becomes a trophy. Now imagine the tension in an auction room when a flawless example surfaces. Imagine seasoned collectors leaning forward, bidding paddles ready, knowing that opportunities like this may not appear again for decades. In the world of rare coins, perfection and rarity collide to create explosive valuations, and that brings us to the figure that stops conversations cold: $3.7 million. How does a penny reach such a valuation? First, rarity. Not the kind of rarity printed in promotional emails, but true, documented scarcity. Transitional errors occur during periods of production change. Dies are swapped. Equipment is updated. In rare moments, old and new components overlap. If only a tiny number escape into circulation before the mistake is caught, you have the foundation of value. Second, condition. In coin grading, the difference between near perfect and absolutely perfect can mean millions. A cent graded at the very top of the scale displaying blazing red luster, razor-sharp strike, and no visible flaws under magnification enters elite territory. Collectors compete not only for rarity, but for supremacy. Who owns the finest known example? That question fuels bidding wars. Third, provenance and market psychology. Wealthy collectors often seek iconic modern rarity coins that represent turning points in minting history. The 1988 reverse of 1989 variety symbolizes technological transition within the United States Mint. It tells a story, and stories sell. Now here's the part that should make you sit a little straighter. Many transitional error coins were discovered years after their release. They circulated, they passed through grocery stores, gas stations, and vending machines. Some were found in rolls purchased from banks. Some were pulled from pocket change by sharp-eyed individuals who knew what to look for. So let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable. How many times have you dumped a jar of pennies into a coin machine without checking them? It's almost humorous, isn't it? We scrutinize stock portfolios but ignore the copper sitting in our kitchens. We analyze real estate markets yet overlook a 1-cent piece that could rewrite a retirement plan. But this is not about fantasy hunting. It's about awareness. To identify the 1988 reverse of 1989 variety, specialists examine the lettering on the reverse, specifically the shape of the A and M in America and the details of the Lincoln Memorial. The 1989 reverse displays subtle design refinements compared to the standard 1988 reverse. Under magnification, the distinctions become undeniable. For trained collectors, it is a thrilling moment of discovery. Picture this: you sit at a desk under bright light, a simple magnifier rests in your hand. You sort through a small pile of 1988 pennies. Most look identical. Then one catches your eye. The spacing feels different. The letters appear sharper, slightly altered. Your pulse quickens. Could this be it? That moment, that breath between doubt and possibility, is what drives collectors worldwide. Now let's address a critical truth. Not every 1988 penny without a mint mark is worth millions. In fact, the vast majority are worth only face value, unless found in exceptional uncirculated condition. This is where discipline separates dreamers from serious sellers. Authentication and professional grading are essential. Reputable third-party grading services evaluate the coin's authenticity, assign a grade, and encapsulate it for preservation. Without certification, extraordinary claims remain just that, claims. But when authentication confirms a rare transitional error in top condition, the narrative changes dramatically. And here's where urgency enters the picture. Coins do not announce themselves. They do not glow. They do not whisper their value. They wait quietly, sometimes for decades. And every year, countless valuable coins are lost to damage, corrosion, or careless disposal. What if one of those coins is already in your possession? For viewers between 30 and 65, this isn't just a hobbyist's curiosity, it's a strategic opportunity. The secondary market for rare U.S. coins remains robust, driven by collectors, investors, and wealth preservation strategies. Tangible assets with historical significance often attract buyers seeking diversification beyond traditional markets. But markets evolve, awareness spreads. As more people learn about specific varieties, discoveries may increase, temporarily softening scarcity. The window of ignorance, the period when few know what to search for, gradually closes. So consider this your moment of clarity. The 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent, specifically the rare transitional reverse variety, stands as a reminder that value often hides in plain sight. It challenges assumptions, it rewards knowledge, and it punishes complacency. Imagine explaining to your family that a penny you found in an old box funded a major life milestone, a home upgrade, college tuition, financial freedom. It sounds dramatic because it is, but history has repeatedly proven that overlooked coins can transform ordinary lives. Now let's circle back to that auction room. The bidding climbs. 1 million, 2 million, the room tightens. 3 million, a final pause. $3.7 million, the hammer falls, applause echoes, cameras flash. A single cent once dismissed as insignificant has entered the realm of legend. And somewhere, perhaps, another example still rests in circulation. That possibility should not create reckless hope, it should create disciplined action. Check your 1988 pennies. Examine the reverse details carefully. Handle coins by the edges. Store promising finds safely. Seek expert evaluation before making decisions. Knowledge and patience are your greatest tools. Because here is the ultimate lesson. Wealth is not always about chasing the next trend. Sometimes it is about recognizing the hidden value in what you already possess. The 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent teaches us that transitions create opportunity, errors create rarity, conditioned creates value, and awareness creates advantage. So tonight, before you scroll past another financial headline, take a few minutes to look through your change. Ask yourself what else you might be overlooking, and not just in coins, but in life. Could a single cent alter your financial trajectory? The answer may be waiting in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten envelope. And if you do find that rare transitional 1988 penny, the one with the reverse meant for 1989, you remember this moment. The moment you decided to pay attention, because sometimes, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is only one small detail, a broken bar and the willingness to see it. But here's the question that matters. Could a 2006 D penny really be worth $3.40 million? A broken bar, or is something deeper going on? The 2006 D Lincoln Cent was struck at the Denver facility of the United States Mint. Specifically at the Denver Mint, it carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the Overset design that has defined American coinage for generations. By 2006, the Lincoln Cent had already been circulating for nearly a century. It was common, familiar, easy to overlook, and that's precisely why the rumors are so powerful. When people hear that a penny, especially one from the 2000s, could be worth millions, excitement spreads like wildfire. Social media posts claim secret auctions, headlines tease rare coins worth a fortune, videos show dramatic reactions, and suddenly, millions of Americans are dumping out coin jars at the kitchen table. Let's pause for a moment. What makes any coin valuable? Scarcity, condition, historical importance, and, most importantly, verified demand from serious collectors. In 2006, the Denver Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents, not thousands, not millions, billions. That sheer production volume means that the vast majority of 2006 D pennies you find in circulation today are worth exactly 1 cent. Even in pristine uncirculated condition, most examples trade for only a small premium, often just a few dollars. So where does the millions story come from? This is where the narrative shifts. In rare cases, modern coins can become extraordinarily valuable, but only when they contain dramatic mint errors or unique anomalies. Think about coins struck on the wrong metal plankette, double strikes so severe they distort the design, off-center impressions, missing clad layers. These errors are rare because quality control at the mint is strict. When such anomalies slip through, they become collectible, but even then, values typically range from hundreds to thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands in extreme cases. Multi-million-dollar sales are historically associated with legendary rarities, coins with extremely low survival rates, early American issues, or unique specimens from the 18th and 19th centuries. Now here's the emotional twist. The fear of missing out is real. What if you spend a rare coin without realizing it? What if that penny you handed to a cashier last week had a microscopic doubling error worth thousands? That anxiety fuels the hunt. It keeps collectors checking dates under bright lights. It creates urgency, and urgency can be powerful, but it must be guided by facts. As of today, there is no verified public record of a standard 2006 D Lincoln cent selling for $3.4 million. No auction house documentation, no grading company certification, no historical transaction that supports that claim. But don't turn away just yet, because that doesn't mean your 2006 D penny is worthless. It means you need to know exactly what to look for. Start with condition. Professional coin grading companies use a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS67 or higher, meaning virtually flawless under magnification, can command significantly more than a circulated example. Modern coins in superb condition are surprisingly difficult to find because most enter circulation immediately. Then examine for errors. Look for strong doubling in the lettering. Check whether the coin is off-center. Inspect the rim for irregularities. Use a magnifying glass, not your naked eye. Rotate the coin under light. Tiny differences can mean meaningful premiums. And here's a humorous reality check. If your penny looks like it survived a lawnmower, a car wash, and a toddler's art project, it's probably not headed to a six-figure auction. But if it's pristine, sharply struck, brilliant red luster, no scratches, no spots, you may have something worth sending to a grading service for professional evaluation. This is where patience separates dreamers from disciplined collectors. The wealth in coin collecting rarely comes from hype. It comes from knowledge, from understanding mintages, from tracking auction records, from studying population reports, from knowing the difference between a viral rumor and a certified sale. Let's zoom out for a moment. Why do so many modern coin value rumors circulate? Because the idea is irresistible. The thought that something ordinary could be secretly extraordinary taps into a universal hope. It feels democratic. Anyone could win. Anyone could discover life-changing money in their change jar. But here's the deeper truth. Wealth building is rarely accidental. Even in numismatics, success favors those who educate themselves, those who invest time, those who verify information before acting. Now imagine this scenario. You find a 2006 D penny with a noticeable off-center strike, maybe 15% misaligned. The date is still visible, the design is clear. You research similar examples and discover that comparable coins have sold for several $100s, sometimes over $1,000 depending on condition. Suddenly, that penny isn't just pocket change, it's leverage, it's proof that knowledge pays, and that realization is powerful. because while the $3.4 million headline may not be grounded in documented auction results, the principle behind the excitement remains valid. Rare coins do exist, valuable errors do surface, and informed collectors do profit. The key is separating possibility from fantasy. If you're serious about selling old and rare pennies, begin with authentication. Never rely solely on online claims. Submit potential error coins to reputable grading services. Compare your coin to certified examples. Study auction archives. Look for real transaction data, not just asking prices. Ask yourself, is there documented evidence? Has the coin been graded? Is there a known population report? If the answer is no, proceed cautiously. Here's the cliffhanger most people overlook. Sometimes, the real opportunity isn't in one specific coin, it's in the habit you build while searching. As you learn about the 2006 descent, you'll inevitably discover other key dates. Transitional errors, double dies, off-metal strikes. You'll start recognizing patterns. You'll gain an eye for detail, and one day perhaps when you least expect it you may find something genuinely rare. Not because you chased hype, but because you trained yourself to see what others ignore. That is where wealth potential truly begins. So what should you do right now? First, check your change, not with blind hope, but with educated curiosity. Second, educate yourself on verified error types for the Lincoln Cent series. Third, protect any high-grade examples you find. Store them properly. Avoid cleaning them. Cleaning destroys value instantly. And finally, maintain perspective. The 2006 Lincoln Cent is a common modern coin produced in massive quantities. Most are worth face value. A select few rare examples may command premiums, but multi-million-dollar claims require documented proof, and without that proof, they remain speculation. Yet speculation has a purpose. It gets people looking, it gets people learning, it gets people engaged with their financial potential in a tangible, accessible way. And that might be the most valuable takeaway of all, because when you begin examining your coins carefully, you're not just hunting for copper and zinc, you're developing financial awareness, you're sharpening your instincts, you're cultivating discipline, and discipline builds wealth. So the next time you hold a 2006 penny, don't dismiss it, study it, understand it, verify it, respect the facts, and remember that true opportunity isn't about viral numbers, it's about informed action. Somewhere in America tonight, someone is checking a coin jar. Somewhere, a collector is discovering an error worth hundreds, maybe thousands, and somewhere, a rumor is turning into research. Which side of that equation will you be on? The dreamers chasing headline as a broken bar, or the educated collectors building real value? The choice, quite literally, may already be in your hands.